adult services librarian at Ames Public Library.
And I'm Anessa. I also work at the Ames Public Library as an adult services librarian.
And we're here to give you some recommendations for our third annual 12 to Try challenge. So for the month of December, the challenge is a book about or inspired by the lived experience of an immigrant or a refugee. So we're going to give you some recommendations, but feel free to swing by the library for some more or to check out our display promoting the challenge. Anessa, what's your first recommendation?
So my first recommendation is Hijab Butch Blues, which is actually a direct reference to Stone Butch Blues, the lesbian classic. This particular book is a poignant and reflective memoir that explores faith, queerness, family, and identity. Lamya H., which is not the author's real name, describes their childhood growing up Muslim in a Muslim-majority country. They describe their struggling with their queerness, with feeling alone, with finding hope, and their eventual move to the United States and their struggles here in the US. Lamya's Muslim faith really plays a huge role in this book. And in addition to being a deeply personal memoir, it's also a really thoughtful exploration of gender and Islam, which I personally found absolutely fascinating. Simultaneously, Lamya also explores Islamophobia in queer spaces, while also questioning the traditional narrative of coming out to one's family. All told, the book is a deep and deeply moving meditation on faith, gender, and identity, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you like it, you could also check out Edife Okporo's book, Asylum.
Cool. That's a great recommendation.
Thanks.
And I love the cover. It caught my eye right away.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
It is.
What's your first recommendation?
So my first one is also a novel, and this is called Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. And it follows the stories of 3 different generations of a family. So there's Perla, who's a grandmother running a laundry in what used to be a beautiful neighborhood in Colombia and is now somewhere you're not sure if you want to go. And her daughter Elena, who meets a man named Mauro, and they fall in love during a time of civil war and come to the US on a 6-month travel visa. But they decide to stay in the US and end up living here undocumented. Mauro ends up becoming deported, leaving Elena to raise their 3 children. And then it also follows the life experiences of the children, including the youngest named Talia, who is sent back to Colombia to live with her grandmother and kind of engineers her escape from a reformatory to get back to the US. It incorporates Andean and Colombian mythology and legends and myths along the way. And it's a really moving tale of the immigrant experience and family inspired by the author's lived experience as the daughter of Colombian immigrants. So I would recommend it for anybody who likes literary fiction, family sagas, really well-drawn, developed characters, or has an interest in learning more about some Andean and Colombian mythology.
Wow, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and it's only around 200 pages, so it's a nice quick read as well. So gives
Solid.
you time to really savor it. What's your next pick?
So my next pick is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, which has been, I think, justifiably identified as like an absolute classic of graphic nonfiction, and is often compared to Art Spiegelman's Mouse for the same reason. But Persepolis really doesn't have a whole lot in common with Mouse other than the fact that they're both graphic memoirs. Marjane Satrapi is depicting her childhood in Iran, during which she witnessed the fall of the Shah and the Islamic Revolution. At 14, her parents sent her to Austria to complete her education free from oppression until prejudice, bigotry, and a bout of homelessness eventually drive her to return to Iran. But the whole thing is told from Satrapi's point of view as a child. So it's got a very, very bright, almost innocent but not naive tone to it. Like, she definitely knows and understands what she's looking at the way a child would know and understand. But at the same time, she's a very bright, very well-educated, very precocious child. And her character as this really fierce young woman who really knows who she is and is exploring her world really comes through, and it gives it this bright tone, which I don't think Mouse has. And Satrapi like really draws her experiences in this very sort of deceptively simple, like black and white art style, but it's marvelously expressive, and it really evokes the centuries of Iranian art history that she's drawing on. It's raw and it's honest, and she doesn't flinch from describing and drawing the torture and oppression she witnessed. So the book has been banned both in Iran and in some American school districts. It's a coming-of-age story, the story of life and a family brushed by the forces of history. It's incredibly powerful work, and I think really deserves the title of a classic. If you like it, you should also check out Alison Bechdel's trenchant graphic memoir, Fun Home, because it has kind of that same sort of like wry humor going on.
Yeah, I could see that. And I agree, definitely a classic.
Fantastic book. Can't recommend it highly enough.
Absolutely.
What's your next one?
Mine is also a memoir, but not graphic, just text. And it is The Girl Who Smiled Beads, A Story About War and What Comes After by Clemantine Wamariya and Elizabeth Weil. So this follows the lived experience of Clemantine, who was 6 in 1994 when she and her 15-year-old sister Claire fled the Rwandan genocide and spent the next 6 years going through 7 different African countries before being granted refugee status in the
God,
U.S.
that sounds awful.
I know, and a 6-year-old spending the ages 6 through 12 migrating through the African countryside. She ultimately was adopted by a family and went to Yale, but of course that trauma is carried with her into her present. Something that I thought was really powerful is not only is this just a really striking biography and memoir, and obviously she explains the genocide and her trauma and everything that she went through, but it's also very clear that she is determined to live the life that she wants to live and to not be defined by all of that happened to her.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful story, so highly recommend. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and swing by the library if you'd like any other recommendations. Thank you.